Namaste children. Today in our English class we shall learn a poem. Before we begin with the poem, I would like to pose some questions. Would you like to live a free and happy life, or you more so accept with confined and restricted life? I hope this current situation makes you all understand how difficult it is for one to stay confined at home. And that is how the theme of the poem and the interpretation of the poet. Before that, we will begin with the introduction of the poet. Leslie Norris was a famous Welsh poet and a short story writer. He was born in 1921 in South Wales. Leslie Norris had decided even at an early age that he would become a poet. He was very much interested in the poems of Dylan Thomas and Vernon Watkins. His first poem was published in 1938, but his first book of poetry came out in the year 1943. His works won various awards, and Leslie died in the year 2006. Now, let us read the poem aloud. And the poem titled A Tiger in the Zoo. Now take a book, children, and start reading the poem aloud. There are 5 stanzas, and we'll begin with first stanza. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on paths of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the waterhole where plump deer pass. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. He hears a last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Now, we will proceed on with the stanza-wise explanation of the poem. Commencing with stanza 1, he stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on paths of velvet quiet in its quiet rage. Here, the poet Leslie Norris says that the tiger that is confined in the zoo moves around in the cage under his bright colored skin, that is what vivid stripes. He further says that the tiger can take only a few steps because the cage is so small and it is not easy for the tiger to move in it. And one cannot hear his footsteps because the tiger has a very soft feet like velvet, because of which there is no sound of the tiger's footsteps. The tiger tries to control his anger by quietly walking in the limited area of his cage. The tiger is angry because he is not free. Moving into the next stanza, he should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the waterhole where the plump deer pass. The meaning of lurking is nothing but concealing, hiding. The poet says that if this tiger was free, he would have concealed or hidden himself behind the long grass near the water bodies so that the tiger could easily catch a deer in order to have it as its food. Basically, the poet wants to say that the actual life of a tiger is to live in the jungle, where the tiger could catch its prey and eat it, but this tiger is in the cage, which could not do anything like that. Moving with the next stanza, which is stanza 3. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. The meaning of snarling in the stanza 3 is nothing but growling sound or the threatening noise made by the animals. The poet Leslie Norris says that if the tiger would have been free, he would have snarled around houses located at the outskirts of the forest. He would terrorize the people with his sharp tooth and claws. This would in turn create fear among the people living in the villages. Now with stanza 4. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring the visitors. Now, the poet comes to the reality of the tiger that is inside the cage. He says that the tiger is confined in a strong cell which is made up of strong building material. He further says that as the tiger is behind bars, so his ferociousness is also behind the bars. He just stalks in the cage. He never tries to terrorize the visitors because as all the power of the tiger is restricted by the cage. Therefore, he never tries to terrorize the visitors as he cannot attack them. So, he just ignores. Now coming into the last stanza. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. The poet says that in the night, the tiger hears the sound of the patrolling cars. Patrolling cars are the vehicles of police which are used to guard the zoo at night. So, in the night, the tiger hears the sound of these cars. He then stares at the shining stars with his shining eyes. The poet wants to say that the tiger is sad and as he is confined in the cage, so he cannot do anything. Therefore, he stares at the stars in the night and tries to divert his thoughts towards them. From this poem, we come to know that animals like to live freely in the forest, and the animals do not want to live in the zoo. Their life is pitiable in it. Freedom is an essential virtue valued by all. Not only humans, but even the denizens of the forest value it. Having seen the value of the poem, now we come into the poetic devices of the poem, A Tiger in the Zoo. We have poetic devices like personification, metaphor, alliteration, enjambment, oxymoron, and the rhyme scheme. First, we have personification. The tiger is completely personified in the poem because the poet refers to the tiger as he. Metaphor. We have a line, paths of velvet. Here, the tiger's paws are so soft that is compared with velvet. And the next poetic device is alliteration. The use of same sound or the alphabet BB, HH or SS or PP being displayed in the poem, like behind bars, he hears, plump deer pass. And the next one is enjambment, is nothing but a sentence is continuing to the next line without any punctuation mark. There are many examples. One such is, he should be snarling around houses at jungle's edge. And the next one is oxymoron. Two different words put together. Two different meaning words which is put together. For example, quiet rage. Finally, coming into rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme of the poem, A Tiger in the Zoo, is A, B, C, B. Now finally, we'll conclude the poem with a central idea. Like human beings, even the tiger too loves and values his freedom. He shows his anger, hatred, and even defiance by walking about it in rage in his cage. Human progress should not be at the cost of destroying the natural habitats of untamable and proud animals like tiger. Thank you, children.